4. Spine-chilling tales of terrifying childhood experiences alone. Sinister secrets revealed. Jake always thought summer nights were perfect for indulgence, video games, takeout, and, for once, the freedom to be alone. The warm evening light crept through his bedroom window on this particular night, casting playful shadows that felt inviting. His mother, a dedicated nurse at the local hospital, was gone for her late shift, and he savored this rare taste of independence. With a flick of a switch, he immersed himself in an alternate reality of pixelated adventures. But as he dived deeper into the game, a sudden chill slithered through the room, making him shiver. Curiosity took hold. He decided to rummage through the attic for an old game console his mom had tucked away. Climbing the creaky stairs, the air grew dense and stale, and dust particles danced in the shaft of moonlight. The darkness felt alive, almost as if whispering secrets he wasn't meant to uncover. Amid the clutter and cobwebs, an old chest caught his eye, standing out from the rest. The moment he unlatched it, a thick cloud of age and memory poured out, wrapping around him like an oppressive fog. Inside lay a collection of childhood drawings, twisted versions of his mother with grotesque faces and chaotic symbols that sent ice racing down his spine. He recognized the symbols from the whispered folklore that surrounded his small Midwestern town. Tales of a vengeful spirit lurking in the shadows, punishing families who harbored dark secrets. As panic gnawed at his insides, Jake pushed the thoughts aside. His mother always said kids had wild imaginations, right? But the gnawing dread didn't let go. Just then, he heard a soft knock at the door. Peering outside, he spotted Mr. Larson, their neighbor. He often received cookies from Jake's mother, sharing warm laughter that made the nights feel safe. Yet tonight, his stance felt menacing, a crooked smile on his lips and eyes that seemed to flicker with secrets of their own. Each time Jake glanced at Mr. Larson, unsettling sensations washed over him as whispers danced on the wind. Something isn't right, he thought. Before he had a chance to shake off the unease, something heavy thudded against the front door. He approached cautiously. A rusted key lay on the porch. Confusion spiraled into fear. One by one, sinister items began appearing. An old photograph of a family fading in the moonlight, and an intricately carved talisman that felt wrong even to touch. Each item drew Jake deeper into a web of dread, questions rising like storm clouds. What was happening to his night? Why were these things appearing? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each passing moment, anxiety devoured his ability to rationalize. He knew he needed help, but felt invisible as the local police brushed him off, dismissing his concerns as childish paranoia. Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the walls around him were closing in, shadows from the attic lurking behind every corner. His night was no longer about video games. It was a showdown with something dark and ancient. And then, just as Jake resolved to uncover the truth about his mother and the secrets that tethered them, a chilling whisper slithered through his empty home, asking the one question that froze his heart in dread. What do you choose to reveal, Jake? Shadows crept ever closer, suffocating the light, leaving only uncertainty and terror in their wake. Jake's heart pounded like a drum. The air grew thick with an acrid scent, like burnt leaves, and he could feel the darkness pressing in, like hands reaching for him. He stumbled backward into the attic's shadowy corners, the scenarios spinning through his mind. Who was asking that question? What if he didn't want to reveal anything? He shook his head violently, trying to dispel the chill that threatened to claim him. The drawings flashed in his memory, their grotesque faces mocking him. What secrets lay buried beneath his mother's stern demeanor? He had always sensed something unsettling about their home, a weight to their family's history that went unspoken. But this felt different, darker. "Jake?" The voice sounded again, softer this time, familiar yet foreign. Panic rising in his throat, he strained to identify its source. The shadows seemed to stretch and elongate, warping around him. He turned, careening through the attic in search of the light switch, heart racing, each creak of the floor beneath him echoing like a taunt. Just as he reached the wall, another thud resonated from the living room below, as if something very heavy had been dropped. He froze, paralyzed by dread and instinct. But still, curiosity clawed at him. He edged back toward the attic stairs, hesitating at the threshold. Shadows danced on the walls, taunting him with the image of Mr. Larson's crooked smile. What did he know? There was no way he'd simply left that rusted key on the porch for Jake without a motive. The noise from the living room rose again, more urgent this time. Adrenaline burned in his veins, and for a fleeting moment, Jake contemplated escape, leaving the house for good. But then his gaze landed on the old chest, still ajar, its contents a chorus of chaos, demanding to be understood. Another voice spoke, breaking through the overlap of shadows. "Find me," it whispered, breathy and jagged. The sound seemed to ripple through the air and curl around his thoughts. He took one shaky step toward it, propelled by an instinct stronger than fear. As he peered inside, the darkness pooled deeper within the chest, deeper and darker than he could have imagined. He felt the talisman in his hand again, warm and pulsing like a heartbeat, and it tugged at his memories. "You have to know," the echoes seemed to say. "You need to know the truth." Summoning courage, Jake plunged his hand into the chest. The second his fingers touched the collection of drawings, a sharp pain shot through his wrist like ice, and a dark shadow seeped from the art, surrounding him in an inky embrace. He gasped, pulling his hand back, but it was too late. Visions flooded his mind, images of his mother's face twisted in terror alongside the horrific drawings, blood-stained hands that looked so familiar, yet foreign. A loud crash thrust him back into the present reality, and he stumbled down the attic steps, rushed by a mix of apprehension and urgency. Something in the house was shifting. He heard the sound of furniture scraping as though being pushed, reshaped in the dark. Each step felt heavier than the last, the floor trembling under his feet. He reached the living room, and every hair on his body stood on end. The lights flickered eerily, casting strange shapes on the walls. His heart raced as he studied the scene before him. The furniture lay askew, like a fight had taken place. An unholy chill washed over him when he noticed something placed prominently on the coffee table, a small box wrapped in rusted chains. Jake's breath came quick and shallow as he stepped closer, drawn like a moth to flame. And that voice. It rang in his ears, persistent. "What do you choose to reveal, Jake?" He hesitated, heart thundering, the weight of the moment pressed down on him, thick with pressure and fear. What if he chose wrong? Beneath the box a glimmer caught his eye, a pale hand emerging from the shadows, beckoning him closer. Despite every instinct screaming for him to run, he reached out toward the box, uncertainty lurching in his gut. What lay inside? A hidden truth, or a malevolent secret waiting to consume him? For a brief moment the shadows receded, giving way to an unsettling silence that settled like a blanket around him. And in that heartbeat, Jake realized. The real question wasn't just what he would reveal, but what he was about to uncover. As he unlatched the chains, a horrifying realization struck him. Perhaps the challenges he faced were just the beginning. What if he wasn't the only one whose secrets were begging to be freed? Jake's fingers trembled as they brushed against the cold, rusty chains, feeling as if they had soaked in the terror of generations. With each click of the latch, a metallic echo reverberated through the room, filling the space with a haunting promise. The box creaked open, revealing a darkness that swallowed the flickering light from the nearby lamp, as if it were a gateway to something ancient and otherworldly. He leaned closer, his heart racing with every breath. Inside lay a collection of items, some familiar, others utterly foreign. A cracked porcelain doll with hollow, staring eyes. It felt like it was watching him, judging him. Next to it sat a tattered diary, its cover worn and stained, beckoning him to uncover its secrets. But it was the faint, rhythmic thumping that made his blood run cold, pulsating from the depths of the box like a heart waiting to be freed. "Jake, you have to listen." The voice re-emerged, sharper and more insistent. The air around him grew heavy, thick with despair. He didn't want to know. He felt suspended between two worlds, one of safety outside and one of horror within. But that pulsing rhythm grew louder, almost alive. He couldn't resist. He reached into the depths of the box, fingers brushing against the diary. The moment he touched it, the world shifted. Shadows converged, dimming the room as his breath hitched in his throat. Whispers filled the air like a fog, words intertwining in a symphony of dread. "Reveal what you've hidden," they chanted, echoing against the walls. "Unlock the past." Jake yanked the diary free, anxiety clawing at him. The cover crackled under his grip, and when he pried it open, dark ink sprawled chaotically across the pages like spilled blood. He staggered backward, nearly losing hold of it. It wasn't just his mother's handwriting. It was mixed with something else, scraggly, serpentine strokes that had no place in a normal journal. Dread settled deeper in his stomach. Words blurred across the pages, taunting him, revealing bits of his mother's past that felt prickly and fragile. Each line dragged him further into a history woven with fear and secrecy. He read of shadows watching from corners, of rituals and dark whispers at midnight. His pulse quickened the more he read, the words feeling like daggers slicing into his sanity. "We must keep it hidden. It knows us," one line screamed back at him, scrawled hastily as if penned in a frenzy. Suddenly a loud crash jolted him from his trance. The front door slammed open, wind howling through the house, thrusting furniture around him. He turned to face the entrance, breath caught in his throat. Outside, the world seemed alive with noise, branches scraping against the house, leaves rustling, an unseen presence creeping closer. His thoughts were racing. That voice, it was there, urging him to dig deeper, but the storm outside was relentless, the darkness pressing in from every angle, almost taunting him. He could imagine shadows elongating, coiling around him, hungry for the secrets he held. "Read on, Jake," the voice urged, growing desperate. "You must understand. Unravel it before it consumes you." Gritting his teeth, he returned his focus to the diary, grim determination flooding through him. But as he skimmed the next page, a chilling illustration met his gaze, a depiction of something unspeakable. A creature shrouded in darkness with blood-red eyes glaring directly at him. Jake's throat went dry. A knock echoed from a window, loud and jarring, as if someone or something sought entry. He clutched the diary close like a shield, fear pulsing through him. The suffocating silence hollowed out his chest as he slid toward the window, drawn to the terrifying unknown. Who was out there? What more was hidden within these drawings and this horrific journal? For the first time he felt the weight of the truth pressing down on him. Secrets trapped in blood-stained pages wanted to be freed, and that palm, beckoning from the shadows, whispered again, "It's time to pick a side, Jake." His heart leapt into his throat as he wrestled with the choice standing before him, a choice that could either unlock the past or unleash the horror residing within. Would he face the darkness, or would he run away? The wind howled louder, rattling the window panes like a warning. Jake's pulse quickened as he approached the glass, heart thumping like a drum in his chest. He peered out into the void, the night cloaked in a black curtain broken only by the occasional flash of lightning. Each strike illuminated the trees, their gnarled branches twisting like fingers reaching for him. There was someone, waiting out there. Breathing in shallow gasps, he pressed his forehead against the cool glass. Shadows shifted unnaturally, swaying as if alive. A flicker of movement caught his eye. Was it just the storm? Or was it something stepping closer? Sweat beaded on his brow. The diary felt heavy in his grip, its contents pressing upon him with a weight he couldn't shake. "Read it," the voice urged, now woven with a hint of impatience. "You cannot run from what you are." What did that even mean? He stumbled back from the window, panic rising. He could feel the presence gathering at the threshold of his home, an entity born from the depths of the journal. Whatever facade of normalcy he'd clung to was unraveling before his eyes. He glanced at the pages again. The ink seemed darker now, as if it was absorbing the very essence of fear hanging in the air. He caught sight of an inscription near the bottom of the last page he flipped to, written in a shaky hand, "Beware the corners." Something inside him recoiled. A feeling of dread spiraled through his gut. "What does that mean?" he muttered under his breath, clutching the diary tighter as he backed away. The room felt smaller, the shadows more pronounced. The knocking intensified, echoing wildly against the window and walls, desperate and insistent. Jake was torn between the door and the diary's secrets. He fumbled with the latch, his pulse echoing in his ears. The room's atmosphere thickened, swirling with whispered threats. "Jake, they want what you have." His instincts screamed at him to not open the door, but fear morphed into anger. "What do you want?" he shouted, voice trembling yet defiant. Silence hung heavy in the air, almost welcoming. He turned back to the diary, the lamp flickering ominously, casting dancing shadows that taunted him. Jake flipped the page, the scraggly writing assaulting him with urgency. "The corner has eyes!" it shrieked. Blank terror washed over him. His gaze shot to the dim recess where the wall met the floor. A shiver traced his spine. He stepped toward the shadow altar, breath hitching. He felt it, something watching him from that corner. The sensation was visceral, crawling across his skin like icy fingers. And then, without warning, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was vague and shrouded, the shape twisting and twitching unnaturally. A face, no, several faces, seemed to materialize, their mouths hanging open, as if wailing and whispering in incoherent chants. Every feature blurred, a grotesque caricature of humanity. Frozen, Jake clutched the diary against his chest. "What do you want?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. The shadows vibrated, coiling and unfurling like serpents ready to strike. "It knows you! You were chosen!" The voices shrieked, filling the room with a cacophony of madness. He stumbled back, panic flooding his veins. It felt like they were reaching for him, those dark tendrils trying to pull him into the madness. He had to choose, to confront this horror that screamed from the darkness or succumb to the terrifying secrets demanding release. As his back hit the wall, a sudden thought surged through him. There was power in knowledge, but at what cost? With one deep breath, Jake decided. The voices intensified, the shadows danced, and in that moment he plunged into the diary, desperately seeking answers amidst the frenzy of wicked madness. The room trembled around him, and the whispered warnings echoed louder. The truth was too close now, waiting to be unearthed. What awaited him in those final, unsettling pages? What horrors had his mother concealed? Jake was about to cross a threshold that could change everything, or end it all. Jake's vision blurred as he fell into the pages, engulfed by darkness deeper than the storm raging outside. A shuddering breath escaped his lips. The air crackled with energy, charged with a sense of something vast and ancient coiling around him. The rooms morphed and twisted into grotesque hallways lined with shadows that clawed at his consciousness. He could see doorways leading to places that felt familiar yet horrifying, places he didn't want to explore. Somewhere in the cacophony, a voice, a woman's voice, cried out, rich and despairing, "You must understand." Jake wanted to reach out, to grasp something solid. Instead, he felt his body floating, his feet barely brushing against the ground as the shapes around him transformed into figures that scrabbled with eager hands, whispering secrets long buried. He struggled against their pull, sensation ripping through him like razors. "Jake," they moaned, their voices reverberating with a chilling echo. "Find the truth, or it will find you." His heart raced, and he pressed a palm against his chest as terror tightened its grip. He remembered the diary, the weight of it, its ink gathering around his fingers. The words flashed across his mind. "Beware the corners." A shiver ran down his spine, flickering images of his mother's warnings. Did she know? Had she felt this dread? Sounds swelled from the darkness, clattering whispers, hissing breaths, complaints of the restless dead. He blinked, determined to focus, to push through the veil that was suffocating him. And then clarity struck. There, at the far end of an endless hallway, a dim light flickered. It pulsed like a heartbeat, beckoning and threatening at the same time. Instinctively, Jake moved toward it, propelled by curiosity and fear, locked in a battle he couldn't win. The shadows twisted into fluid forms, laughing softly, whispering taunts that pressed against him. As he approached, he could see what it was. A mirror, reflection twisted and grotesque. Instead of his own face, it showed faces he didn't recognize, each one distorting more than the last. Sadness, anger, pain. They flashed across the surface, making Jake falter. "What are you?" he gasped, desperation clawing at the edges of his sanity. The figures shifted, smirking. "We are what you fear to know, what you've been running from." An icy grip closed around his throat as they continued. "You are not alone, Jake. You belong to us now." Each syllable echoed louder, the storm outside raging in unison, drowning out rational thought. Panicking, he turned sharply, battling the urge to flee. He felt their breath hot against his neck, the fog of whispers slipping under his skin, wrapping him in despair. Then the realization hit him like a brick. His mother. Why had she kept these secrets? In a heartbeat, he found the strength to shout, "I won't be part of this! Let me go!" A wave of energy surged through him. The mirror cracked, splintering under the force of his determination. As it shattered, a scream tore through the air, an anguished, primal sound. For an instant, everything went silent. Then the figures exploded into a whirlpool of shadow, their faces melting into the void. Jake stumbled back, feeling the chill seep away. The storm quieted, leaving only an echo of his own breathing. But then a faint scratching sound drew his eye to the wall, the outline of a door hidden in shadow. Something was stirring inside, something that wanted to escape, and a voice whispered sweetly, "Open it, Jake. Unlock the final truth." His heart raced anew. Was it a way out, or an invitation to deeper horror? Jake hesitated, the weight of his decision pressing down, heavier than ever. The air thickened around him as he reached for the door latch. With a breath steeped in dread, he thought, what if this is only the beginning? The door creaked open, revealing a void more profound than anything he'd faced. Jake stepped into the void, the chill slithering over him like icy fingers. He felt suspended between two worlds, drenched in an unsettling silence that thrummed against his eardrums, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. The doorway closed behind him with a finality that rattled his bones. He spun around, panic seizing him as he tried to pry it open again. It wouldn't budge. Instead, a faint glow emerged ahead, revealing a corridor that stretched infinitely. The walls pulsed, alive with an energy that thrummed through his feet like a heartbeat. "Don't run!" A voice cooed, soft yet terrifying, echoing in the emptiness. It rolled around him, wrapping him in shadows heavier than night. He heard the whispers again, rising from the corners, teasing his thoughts. "Turn back, Jake. You don't want to be here." His heart thudded against his ribcage, each pulse a reminder of the lingering dread. The floor beneath him was cold, but heat radiated from the glowing door at the end of the hall, flickering like a beacon. Perhaps it led to safety. Perhaps it led to something worse. With each trembling step, memories began to creep in. His mother huddled in the dim light of their living room, her whispers mingling with the shadows. "There are places in our home, Jake. Don't let them pull you in. Don't go near the corners." Questions clawed at the edges of his mind. What did she know? The corridor twisted and warped, warping reality as he walked. Sudden gusts of icy air swept past him, taunting whispers fluttering. "Your name is the key." Their mocking gleefulness echoed, shattering what little resolve he had left. When he reached the door, its handle felt warm against his palm, almost inviting. He took a breath, trying to summon the courage to turn it. A sudden thought struck him. What if it revealed something he didn't want to see? What if it was too late? "Open it, Jake!" That soft, sweet voice filled with a promise he didn't trust, but he couldn't turn back. With a deep, gasping breath, he twisted the handle. The door swung open with a slow creak, revealing a room bathed in an unsettling shade of crimson. Inside, shadows danced across the walls, swirling like trapped souls, and his breath hitched in his throat. The words his mother had written flooded back. "Beware the corners." As the door swung wide, he was met with a sight that stopped his heart. A child stood in the center, small and frail, with eyes blacker than coal. It grinned at him, a wide, toothy smile full of malice, hand extended towards him. "Finally, you're here." Jake stepped back. The sensation of being pulled grew stronger. "Who are you?" "I'm the truth," it hissed, the otherworldly echo mingling with the darkness. "Would you like to play?" The shadows reacted, swirling faster, whispering his deepest fears and regrets, circling, tightening their grip around him. A feeling of dread washed over him, panic rising like bile in his throat. "Stop! I won't play your games!" he shouted, but the words felt feeble against the weight of the unseen. The child's smile widened, revealing jagged teeth. "You can't escape the truth, Jake. All roads lead here, to the corners." The room narrowed as shadows pressed in, a suffocating wave around him. Jake staggered backward, feeling the fabric of reality unravel as his back met the doorframe. His mind raced. Were the shadows just figments, or was this something much darker, something real? Outside, the storm surged once more, a prelude to catastrophe. The whispers became deafening. "You must choose, stay, or seek the truth." In that moment, with shadows tightening around him, he could feel the truth call to him, its voice bitter and alluring. What would that truth reveal? Would it tear apart what little sanity he had left, or set him free from the shackles of fear? His pulse thundered in his ears as he prepared to make his choice. Then, a faint scratching sounded from the other side of the room, a noise not unlike the one that had drawn him to the door in the first place. It was a ticking clock, but it was the sound of something more sinister awakening. Before he could react, the child lunged forward, and Jake was thrust into a decision he couldn't delay. "What will you choose?" The shadows whispered as the walls began to close in. The child's fingers grazed Jake's wrist, icy and unyielding, sending a shock of fear coursing through him. He gasped, yanking his arm back. Desperation surged, taking over every thought. The air was thick with a stench, an iron-like coppery scent mixed with something rotting. He squeezed his eyes shut, praying it would somehow shield him from the truth that loomed just beyond the shadows. "Make a choice, Jake." The child's voice oozed like syrup, sticking to his thoughts, wrapping around them like creeping vines. "Stay with me or discover what's in the corners." The words echoed ominously. He felt the shadows pulse, as if the very walls were alive, hungry for his answer. Jake's heart raced. The whispers grew louder, each sinister syllable curling around him. You can know everything, or you can be lost forever. He opened his eyes, desperation giving way to terror as the child's grin widened, exposing teeth too sharp and too many. In the crimson light, the shadows formed visuals, twisting into tormenting reflections of his past. Images flashed before him, his mother standing in their living room, eyes hollow, and old photographs of moments he thought had faded long ago. "Choose!" they hissed again. Shapes flickered, shadows danced, threatening to snatch his sanity. He thought of all the secrets that hid in the old corners of his home, the objects he'd buried in the dark recesses of his mind, nightmares tucked into locked drawers. Would unlocking those corners unearth his demons? "They're waiting," the child urged, pressing forward, its voice now a whisper in his ear, chilling him to the bone. "You've always known this place. You've felt it, haven't you?" Jake's legs trembled as terror clawed its way up his spine, but the allure of knowing was powerful. What if the truth gave him power over the shadows? What if unearthing his fears illuminated the path to freedom? "Open your heart and your mind." The shadows swayed, and deep within their embrace he saw flickerings of light trapped in dark corners. He reached for it, trusting instinct over caution, ready to confront what loomed within. "Don't!" A cry shattered the tension, a familiar voice, strained and pleading, his mother. Her figure emerged faintly from the corner of the room, a fragile silhouette desperately reaching for him, her features washed in a pale glow. "Jake, no, don't listen. It's a trap." His eyes darted between the child and his mother, caught in a vice of conflicting instincts. The child laughed, a cold, brittle sound. "She's lying, Jake. You can finally know. All there is to be known." The pressure built around him, shadows expanding and contracting, the walls pulsating with unease. "Stay, or be consumed," the child reiterated with an unsettling calmness, as if Jake's dread was merely a game played for fun. With his mother's figure flickering, Jake felt time splintering. In that breathless second, he seemed to float between dimensions. Panic roared in his ears like a wild animal, a fierce reminder of all he stood to lose, yet every fiber of his being urged him to succumb to the truth. He lunged toward the corner, his own curiosity pushing him into the depths of darkness, away from the safety of his mother's voice. "I choose." But before he could finish, the shadows erupted, pulling him in, dragging him away from everything he held dear. A piercing scream erupted around him, engulfing him whole, drowning out the world outside. Then everything went black and silent. A sudden flash pierced the void, illuminating something monstrous, his own reflection staring back, eyes hollow and wild, suffocated in darkness, and before he could reconcile this madness, a familiar voice whispered, "The truth is waiting, just beyond the corner." The walls trembled with a sinister energy as they curled inward once again, tightening around him, pulling him deeper than he ever thought possible, to where even the echoes of his own screams faded into nothingness. What awaited him in the corners of this eternal darkness? Would it be his salvation or his everlasting doom? Jake felt himself falling, deeper and deeper into the blackness that enveloped him. The scream of his mother echoed dimly, but it was lost in the thickness of shadows. Time felt non-existent, seconds stretched into an eternity, each heartbeat drumming loud and frantic in his ears. As he descended, panic clawed at his insides. Breath came in shaky gasps, and the cold wrapped around him like an old quilt. His fingers brushed the surface of something slick and wet. Instinct kicked in, and he recoiled at the thought of it. Whatever lay beneath him was alive. He landed hard on what felt like a wooden floor, familiar yet distorted. And as he pushed himself to stand, the air around him shifted, the darkness excited, swirling with whispers that scratched at his mind. "Welcome home, Jake," they beckoned, sending shivers racing down his spine. With a shaky breath, he squinted into the shadows, trying to make sense of the shifting forms. Dim light flickered to life, illuminating a scene he thought he'd left far behind. His childhood home stood before him, yet everything was wrong. The walls warped and twisted, oozing dampness, and the pictures were smudged, each face, each smile, distorted into a grotesque mask of horror. "Look closer!" The child's voice wove through the air, slithering around him. The presence felt weightless, yet suffocating, drawing him toward a photo of his family that had been scratched and splattered with something dark. It was his mother's face, but her eyes. They begged for something he couldn't comprehend. "Mom," he whispered, unsure if he'd spoken in a dream or remembered the past. His heart thudded louder now, echoing in his ears. She had always warned him about the darkness, about the things they kept hidden, and yet here he stood, teetering on the brink of unveiling those very secrets. Each step toward the photograph felt like a step toward doom, tugging at him from the corners of his mind. "No, don't touch it!" A desperate plea punctured through his mounting dread. But it wasn't his mother. It was his own voice, rocking back and forth, a disjointed echo. "You have to remember." Jake didn't know what to believe anymore. Would knowing the truth free him from the child's clutches or trap him forever in this nightmare? As he reached his trembling fingers towards the warped glass of the frame, shadows crept closer, whispering dark promises of revelation. In an instant he was hurled back onto the wooden floor as darkness flared around him. The whispering grew louder, more frantic. "Just let go. It's already inside you." Frantic, Jake pressed his palms against his ears, trying to block out the voices clawing their way into his psyche. He stumbled back, nearly tripping over the desolate remnants of his childhood toys, scattered about like forgotten memories. Each one seemed to pulse with a life of its own, memories overlapping and entwined with his current torment. "Make the jump," the child prompted, its tone cold yet entreating. "Embrace what you've lost. Embrace what you've hidden." The shadows conspired, wrapping themselves tightly around his thoughts, squeezing until he gasped for air. Why were they so determined to pull him in? What truth awaited him beyond the memories? And then he felt it, a ripple of warmth, like sunlight breaking through the thick, oppressive cloud of darkness. You know the truth is there. You just have to reach for it. With racing heart and trembling hands, Jake turned back to the photo. His hand quivered as he touched the glass, suddenly electrified with an otherworldly buzz. The world around him shattered like glass, fracturing his perception. He screamed, and the shadows screamed back, a cacophony rising in a deafening crescendo. Suddenly, a burst of blinding light consumed him, plunging Jake into something far, far worse than he could have imagined. What if this was just the beginning? What had he unleashed by reaching out? Would he be the same when he uncovered the truth, or would it consume him completely? He braced himself for the calamity coming. The worst had yet to reveal itself, and he was right at the edge, teetering on the void. Jake gasped as the blinding light faded, replaced by a suffocating haze that hung in the air like the weight of an ancient guilt. He blinked, struggling to orient himself. He was no longer in the warped halls of his childhood home, but he stood on the edge of a precipice, a jagged cliff overlooking a churning abyss. Waves of black mist swirled beneath him, whispering his name, beckoning him closer. His heart raced. The warmth he had felt moments before disappeared, replaced by an icy dread. "What is this place?" he muttered, trying to pierce the fog with his gaze. Shadows danced along the ledge, flickering like flames in the wind, and he could hear the faint sobs of distant children reverberating through the chasm below. They sounded so lost, pleading, just like he was now. "Jake, you've come so far!" A voice taunted from the depths. It was soft, yet echoed with a haunting familiarity. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up, and he instinctively stepped back away from the edge. "You must face it! You must know!" Clenching his fists, Jake summoned every ounce of courage. He wouldn't succumb to fear. "No!" His voice shattered the oppressive silence, but the shadows seemed to ripple in response, growing darker, more furious. The ground beneath him trembled, and he lost his balance, stumbling to his knees. In that vulnerable moment, something surged from the darkness, creeping along his skin. Cold as ice, it clutched his throat, tightening like a hand, slowly squeezing the life out of him. "You think you can escape?" the whispers hissed. He could almost feel them brushing against his face, tickling the edges of his sanity. "You can never escape what you are, what you've done." Jake squeezed his eyes shut, drowning in memories of laughter that turned to screams, of playtime that morphed into nightmares. The shadows blossomed around him, wrapping tighter, suffocating. Freshly painted pictures emerged in his mind. The day he'd made that horrible choice, the day he had to turn his back on the people he loved. "Stop!" he screamed, as images flashed like lightning in a storm. His mother's tear-streaked face, his younger self, wide-eyed and innocent, the heavy wooden box hidden beneath the floorboards, threatening to spill its secrets. He thought escaping the past had freed him. From the guilt, the weight. It was still there, festering like an untreated wound. "You need to look inside," the voice urged again, now right next to him. A sinister presence hovered, tempting him, insisting. "The truth is buried, but if you dig deep enough, you'll find the answers." He could almost see it, a glimmering thread that tied him to all of it, the twisted fate he had tried to erase. Heart racing, he took a deep breath and forced himself to stand. Stepping toward the abyss felt like stepping into a cold grave, but there was no going back. Jake extended his hand as if to grasp the lurking shadows. Just as he was about to plunge into the void, a sharp pain pierced through his chest, forcing him to gasp. The world spun, then abruptly stopped. "Jake!" The voice erupted in excitement. "Do you understand now? Can you feel what's coming?" He felt it, the shadows pulsing with energy, encircling him. With a surge of desperation, he shouted, "What do you want from me?" Laughter erupted from everywhere and nowhere, filling the void, reverberating in his bones. "We want you to embrace the darkness, Jake. Only then will you see." Just before he could respond, the ground beneath him crumbled away, threatening to consume him. "Wait!" he screamed as he began to fall again, deeper into the unseen horrors below. What awaited him in that darkness? Would he unearth a truth that shattered everything he held dear, or had he truly lost himself forever? Jake plunged into the abyss with the force of relentless dread gripping him. The darkness rushed past, cold and unyielding, but amidst the chaotic descent, a flicker of clarity ignited within his mind. "I will not let you take me!" he shouted against the cacophony of swirling shadows, and just as he felt the pull of despair, something shifted. A light burst forth, a warmth suffusing the blackness that had nearly consumed him. It felt familiar, and he grasped for it, instinctively propelling himself toward its embrace. Waves of golden radiance washed over him, illuminating the shadows with an undeniable truth he had been avoiding forever. The faces of those he loved, fraught with fear and pain, emerged from the darkness. They smiled in warmth beneath the penetrating glow. "Face the truth, Jake," they urged, their voices intermingling in a harmonious chorus. The tempest of shadows raged around him, whispering betrayals and regrets. The child's laughter echoed, seeping into his resolve. "You cannot escape. It's part of you. You'll always be tethered to the dark." "No!" Jake roared, and with newfound bravery he summoned the warmth of the golden light. "I can face it. I won't be swallowed by your lies." A sudden roar surged through the darkness, an anguished scream that reverberated within his chest. The shadows recoiled, drawing back as the light blazed brighter, searing through the haze of guilt that choked him. Each flicker illuminated a memory, a misstep, an unspoken truth intertwined with love and loss. Each moment carved him, shaped him, and ultimately revealed the weight of his resilience. Then the imagery shifted, a childhood scene crystallized around him. His mother knelt on the floor, her hands hovering over that old wooden box. "Jake, we must protect our secrets," she whispered, eyes wide with fear. "The corners. They know." He staggered back in realization. The truth he uncovered wasn't about hiding, but rather embracing where he came from. Those moments had shaped his past, and the tangled roots of family lay buried in their depths. He stepped forward, heart pounding as the golden light propelled him through the layers of memory. Suddenly he felt gravity shift. No longer was he falling, he was rising. With each heartbeat he climbed from the enveloping void. "This is who I am," he declared, voice carrying through the air, bold and determined. "This is the truth I choose to own." The shadows writhed, but now they felt diminished. "You can't claim what you never wanted," they hissed, but Jake held firm. "I can, and I will." His voice resonated with a power he never knew existed, turning what had been whispers of despair into echoes of hope. "I will release you and embrace the light." As he soared higher, the shadows writhed in disarray, their grip unraveling. They pulled back, twisting into dark clouds, morphing once more into the faces of those he loved and lost. Each face held a story, a piece of the horror that had haunted them, yet within each visage lay the resolve to break free. With one final surge, Jake reached into that heart of light, allowing it to weave around him. Memories surged through him, his friends, his childhood, laughter, joy, the bittersweet truth of life entwined in love. Each thread tingled with warmth, binding him to a past he could finally release. In an explosion of understanding, he saw the child one last time as shadows fluttered around it. "You're too late," it cried, but its facade crumbled. "You can't escape your truth forever, Jake. I'm not escaping, I'm claiming it." And with one determined motion, he unleashed the light of what he had discovered, the layers of love, the burdens of loss, and the strength forged in the ties that bonded their family. The darkness around him shattered like stained glass, and the child's laughter dissolved into the storm of light. As the darkness faded away, leaving only echoes in his ears, Jake found himself standing firmly on his feet, back in his childhood home. The air was fresh and vibrant, freed from the weight of dread. Light streamed through the windows, illuminating the old photographs that now held laughter and truth. His mother stood before him, no longer a spectre of fear, but a vibrant woman, alive with love. "You've come back," she smiled softly, acknowledging the power within him. "You faced the shadows." Jake nodded, tears of relief brimming in his eyes. "I did, Mom. I finally understand." Within that moment, shadows receded completely, no longer threatening. Instead, they formed a gentle whisper of comfort, echoes of a journey complete, and the binding of their family's story renewed with love and acceptance. As he embraced his mother, something remarkable shifted in the atmosphere. The weight of the old secrets lifted, clearing the air, the corners of darkness transforming into realms of light, bursting with possibility. "Now," his mother said, a grin breaking through, "shall we celebrate the freedom you've found?" Jake laughed, a joyful sound that filled the transformed space. "Yes, finally, yes!" Each laugh rang true, a healing balm for old wounds. Together, they set about creating a new beginning, their tales no longer rooted in fear, but blossoming with warmth, laughter, and the beautiful chaos of family. And outside, the storm had passed, leaving the world richer, more alive, a testament to the courage found in truth. Remember, friends, If you felt this journey with us, subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and support our community. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories. We want to hear you. You need to share your thoughts. Lastly, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to show your support and be part of this growing family.